course, just hello there, everyone. Of course, welcome to another episode of the Victorious Ones podcast, the place where gaming meets comics, meets sports, meets movies, as well as inspiration, along with some music as well. Of course, I am your host. Got some gum in my mouth. Of course, I'm your host, King Von Jr. Of course, you can follow me on social media on Twitter/X at 301 King Von Jr. Of course, you can also follow the show's Twitter page at Victory Pod One. I'm also the social media producer for the unpopular Reviews Wrestling Show, Perfect Plex Talk Radio, hosted by Perfect Plex Radio, hosted by friend of the program Mike Knox. And of course, you can also follow me on Instagram at Mr. King Von Jr. You can follow the show's Instagram page at Victorious Ones Podcast. I got both of them mixed, the order kind of mixed up a little bit, but it's whatever it is, what it is. Of course, a happy WrestleMania season, by the way. Of course, this is a very monumental, momentous occasion, if you will. Of course, we are on the road to WrestleMania, which is only one weekend away. Can you believe it? So I'm very excited. As we draw closer to to that time, to that time period, and so very excited. It's going to be in Las Vegas, and so more on that later. But first and foremost, I'm going to. And by the way, I also want to say, for those that happen to be watching by way of YouTube, who want to watch by way of YouTube, go to youtube.com/@VonWrestling Jr. Please make sure to like and subscribe for more great content. And so, I will say that this was a very awesome weekend, if you will. Because here in the DC area, it's a very awesome weekend, if you will. Because here in DC, this past weekend at the convention center was the annual AwesomeCon, which is the DC, pretty much DC Comic Con. For those that aren't familiar with it, so New York has New York Comic Con. California has San Diego Comic Con. And so for here in DC, that is our equivalent. So if anything, this is the biggest comic convention, cosplay convention, all that stuff in the area of the entire year. Because AwesomeCon takes place, typically on average during the spring, and so, like I said, typically on average during the spring, and so so what they do, of course, we have photo ops, autographs, panels, plenty of cosplay. It never such thing as enough cosplay at these conventions. Plenty of cosplay, plenty of artwork. So I definitely got myself, as usual each year, pretty nice artwork, especially this really cool Marvel vs. Capcom. A picture that I have back here. I saw that, I was like, say no more, I gotta get it. But in front of that, by the way, for those that are not familiar, yours truly dressed up as Dr. Doom. This past weekend for AwesomeCon, for my very first cosplay as a villain, by the way. Victor Von Doom. So I was like, all right, cool. Why not? It just fits the occasion. And plus, this past weekend was also Robert Downey Jr.'s 60th birthday. So I was like, I'm going to kill two birds with one stone, right? And so I was like, you know what? I got a great idea. Since I knew it was coming up, I already have the Iron Man helmet, obviously. But what I did was I ordered a Dr. Doom costume. I got that off a shot to Amazon. Like I said, got the costume, got the mask as well. So everything came, everything came just in time, and it worked out perfectly. And so what I did was, story time, if you will. I'm gonna get into everything about WrestleMania and all that stuff pretty soon. So story time. Anyway, so I found out what the date was for AwesomeCon. I said, say no more. I'm gonna make it happen. So I, like I said, everything, the costume, everything, I got that off Amazon. So long story short, what I did was, I wanted to kill two birds with one stone. I ended up like I said, not only dressing up as Dr. Doom, but I also took my Iron Man helmet with me as a prop for a photo shoot. So what I did was, by the way, shout out to Plus Ultra Entertainment. Please make sure to follow them on social media, especially on Instagram at Plus Ultra Entertainment. Let's see, say the whole thing, right? Like a Tribe Called Quest, say the whole thing. But anyway, like I said, like my goal was, was to do a photo shoot as Dr. Doom holding up the Iron Man helmet, and so I did that. You know what I mean? So so of course, one picture is with there's one picture of me without the mask, just going like this, with the hood down as well. And there's another one of me holding up the helmet like so, like this. You know what I mean? It's kind of like an honor of Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars. Those coming out very soon. You know what I mean? So that's the next rollout when it comes to the Avengers series. But yeah, like I said, as far as that, like when it came to that cosplay, it was a smash hit. I mean, there's so many people that that stopped to say, "Hey, it's Dr. Doom." People stop to stop me to take pictures. I was like, all right, cool. I felt honored. You know what I mean? And so of course, it's a miracle that nobody really jumped me. But yeah, like I said, it was great. And also to top it off, if you will, the exclamation point was a photo op with the one and only, the living legend herself. Um, you know, Actress from Lord of the Rings, and the daughter of the legendary Steven Tyler, Liv Tyler. So when I saw that she was coming to AwesomeCon, I said, say no more. And like I said, I don't regret it at all whatsoever. Great experience. This is my second photo op, at AwesomeCon. Funny enough, like the first one, obviously, as y'all know, was with Rosario Dawson last year. But I was like, you know what? I saw Liv was on there. Say no more. Even though they had the 40th anniversary of some of the Goonies cast there, there as well. Like I said, it was Goonies cast, Lord of the Rings, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Blue's Clues. So that was the lineup for AwesomeCon. Now, had Josh Brolin been there, I definitely would have made sure to get a photo op with him as well. You know what I mean? So especially with Thanos and Dr. Doom in the same room, right? That would have been pretty cool. Either that or we've gotten this like a Thanos shirt and an Infinity Gauntlet. You know what I mean? So it would have been very fitting. But yeah, it's just about understanding the assignment. But like I said, overall, it turned out great. You know what I mean? Shout out to of course, shout out to Liv Tyler. So of course, big fan of you as well as your dad, anyway. So yeah, so like I say, I definitely enjoyed myself. And it's like I say, as far as that, like I said, the cosplay is amazing. Great artwork. Like I said, I'm always always interested when it comes to the vendors that come to AwesomeCon. I picked up picked up a lot of blank comic covers, so I could do my own artwork. I definitely have some projects lined up pretty soon. Just doing a little cheap plug, but overall, like I said, it was a great experience. And so, and the big one, especially when it was the Plus Ultra Entertainment after party, that was absolutely amazing. So I want to give a shout out once again to Plus Ultra Entertainment. Everybody at part as part of that team. Like I said, give you a shout out, plenty of recognition and so on. But yeah, like I said, overall, an amazing weekend, an awesome weekend, rather, if you will. And also within the same weekend, at least of course within the same weekend, I'm going to make the transition as well. Oh, by the way, got to mention, it's been announced, of course, there's a new Spider-Man movie coming out. Spider-Man Brand New Day is going to be coming out in July 2026. So matter of fact, let me go and get that right now. I was like, oh, wait a minute. You have July 31st, 2026, Spider-Man Brand New Day. And so that goes along with Avengers Doomsday, which comes out that year as well. And that takes place. So actually, Avengers Doomsday is going to be coming out May 1st, 2026. And so now um, Doomsday is, of course, that movie has just started production. You know what I mean? So I definitely look forward to both of those movies. You know what I mean? And so, but yeah, like I said, make a transition. So we're talking about the weekend. Um, Congratulations to the UConn Huskies women's basketball team for winning the 2025 NCAA championship. NCAA women's championship, and of course, Coach Gino Oriema has won his 12th national championship, and they not only did they win, but the way they won in the most absolute dominating fashion over South Carolina. And shout out to the coach Don Staley. So last year South Carolina won, and they've just been an absolute juggernaut this whole time. So naturally you would think of course they're going to go for a repeat. And the fact they already made, the fact they made it this far, that's commendable in itself. But it's just they ran into a brick wall. They ran into a world beater. They ran into a juggernaut, if you will. As I said before, you know what I mean. So it's just like the way UConn beat South Carolina was the way that Thanos beat Hulk in Infinity War, or even the way that Thanos choked out Loki in Infinity War. That's how bad UConn, that's how bad UConn beat South Carolina, and it's just that UConn just was just a more strategic team. Their defense was too much to handle. Just when it comes to just the X's and O's, it's just like Coach Oriema just has Coach Staley's number. He just has a way to systematically break down South Carolina. It's just like to the point where I don't mean to sound like Kendrick, but when it comes to South Carolina, their superpowers got neutralized, and we could only watch the silence. You know what I mean? And so it's just like, man, it's like it did look like two different teams. It reminded me of, and I'm not gonna just shade or whatever, but it also reminded me of when the Seahawks played the Broncos in the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? So Peyton Manning was looked like a world beater quarterback. Like he always did anyway. But especially at that phase of his career, he was putting up best numbers, regular season numbers of his entire career, his 5th MVP and everything. But when they ran to the Seahawks, that Legion of Boom, they made Peyton look like Ryan Leaf. It was uncharacteristic, and so that's how that game was on Sunday. It was like playing 2K with all the sliders up. You know what I mean? But unfortunately, social media can be very cruel, and it's just like they definitely, really, they just had no chill. Of course, they definitely made Don Staley's reaction go viral. I was like, ugh, man, you know what I mean? And but like I said, not to belabor that. Like I said, congratulations to congratulations to the Huskies. UConn is a dynasty when it comes to NCAA basketball, whether it's men or women. Especially when it comes to women. But yeah, it's just like, like I said, they're absolute dynasty. They are, to me, I would say the women's equivalent of UCLA for the men. And when I say UCLA for men, especially when it comes to when it comes to that era of like Lou Alcindor type of thing, that's like I said, for them to maintain that consistency when it comes to the program, that just speaks volumes. And so I say that the Huskies more than have to be commended for. I mean, they already have the championships to prove it anyway. So, I mean, obviously, they're NCAA dynasty. I mean, they're just a staple. And no shade, like I said, Don Staley has nothing to hang her head down and shame about, nothing to regret because I mean, she's she's won national championships herself. You know what I mean? So it's just like it's just like when you go up against just a superior program. To paraphrase Roman Reigns, you have no other choice but to acknowledge. So, but like I said, of course, like I'm not here to kick anybody when they're down or whatever. It's just just a reminder of of just how dominant the UConn UConn ladies basketball program is. But anyway, now it is time to move on to the week in wrestling. And what a week it has been. As WrestleMania, as SmackDown took place on Friday, April 4th, which unfortunately is is the same day that the worst WrestleMania of all time took place, which also happened to have been in Las Vegas as well. As a matter of fact, WWE even came up with a documentary on Peacock about it. I'm not going to watch that garbage. This is like I'm not going to traumatize myself over that. WrestleMania 9, yeah, what I mean. So, like I say, WrestleMania 9 documentary. I'm not going to watch the documentary. I'm not going to watch that. Once you do a documentary about WrestleMania 14 or something, WrestleMania 17, all right, then we can talk. But with that, no, thank you. But anyway, like I said, anyway, this past Friday was April 4th as SmackDown took place. See me? And so thankfully, they're finished with this European tour, which I was not a fan of, especially with 3 o'clock Monday Night Raws and stuff like that. But the highlight of this past Friday was, the segment with Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and CM Punk. Pretty much like Castillo over Heyman, if you will. Ray Phoenix made his debut on Friday Night SmackDown. We also had a match with B-Fab and Naomi, Mid-City Machine Guns, Motor City Machine Guns, whatever. Face off against DIY. Braun Strowman face off against Jacob Fatu. And so, of course, SmackDown took place in Chicago, CM Punk's hometown. Actually, you know what? Before let's say Mark. Yes, so of course, as we'll see, the roster, of course, came back from the European tour. Thankfully, it's over. And so, of course, this past SmackDown took place in Chicago, and so of course, fans were chanting CM Punk's name. You know what I mean? So he's definitely a hero there in Chicago. He is to Chicago when you could say Shawn Michaels is to Texas, pretty much, right? And so as far as that, it's just of course he enjoyed that response. He spoke about the Chicago crowd being energetic, and so of course Punk things like AJ, and of course that was definitely a huge chant going on. For his dog Mary and stuff like that. He thanked everybody, who got him where he needed to be in the main event of WrestleMania, including the fans of Chicago. And so of course, we see that Paul Heyman came out and talked about CM Punk for a while before asking Punk to reveal what the favor is they once before, of course, Roman Reigns arrives. Punk said he would rather tell Heyman when he tells Reigns to his face, and he left the ring. And so that, and of course, it was a great opening segment. And so of course, this is definitely a great opening segment, and it was only a sign of things to come later down the line. So next up, we have Ray Phoenix versus Nathan Frazier, and the winner of this match obviously is Ray Phoenix. You know what I mean? And so next up we have LA Knight versus Tamatanga, and the winner of that match, LA Knight. And next up we have DIY versus the Motor City Machine Guns, and the winners of this match, the Machine Guns. I'm not saying too much. Next up, we have, of course, next up we have B-Fab versus Naomi, and the winner of that match, Naomi, and so of course Nietzsche came out with B-Fab, but but didn't stay at ringside to watch a match against Naomi, and so clearly we see that B-Fab is Team Jade because she looked to Naomi, and just like many of us, she was very disappointed, and the way that Naomi had changed, changed her tune, and so just in highly disappointment. We see that Jade Cargill attacked Naomi during entrance. There wasn't enough damage caused for the match to be called off. So of course, as soon as Naomi got into the ring, the ref called for the bell, and B-Fab, started attacking Naomi with clotheslines. But of course, Naomi was able to rebound and win the match. She was taken down almost immediately by Jade once again, especially with the pump kick. And I did like Jade's promo after the match, and of course it was backstage on WWE's Instagram. By the way, it's just like, plus a shout out to Jade for dressing looked like she dressed up like Storm, like the X-Men movies from the early 2000s. We were all black, and now we have, if anybody pay attention, she even had like she even had the lightning bolt in the middle of it, and so I was like, oh, all right now, like this is definitely official. I think out of all the women's matches or programs going to WrestleMania, I would say that this has been the best from a storyline standpoint. So I would say that I'm more invested in this than the title matches themselves. Of course, even though the match with Naomi and B-Fab was short, but it's just like, that wasn't the main thing. The main thing was that Nick Aldis officially booked Naomi versus Jade for WrestleMania. Anyway, as far as that, I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait. It's confirmed. It's official. I mean, like I said, it's looking even better and better. As time goes on. So next up, we have Jacob Fatu versus Braun Strowman, and we have Jacob Fatu versus Braun Strowman in the last man standing match. The winner of that match is Samoa Werewolf himself, Jacob Fatu. And so next up, last but not least for SmackDown, we have the Fatal. So Tribal Chief came to the ring. Roman Reigns came to the ring to close the show. Obviously, it's best for business. He is Mr. SmackDown after all. So of course he's a SmackDown legend. To close the show with the big reveal of what Punk's favorite, what Paul Heyman is going to be. So then Seth Rollins shows up first to make Roman Reigns mad before CM Punk arrives. So the Punk reveal his favorite is that he wants Heyman to be in his corner instead of Reigns' corner at WrestleMania. So that's what the favor was. So even with CM Punk getting emotional and crying over finally being in the main event, but last week last week the show ended. Punk saying that's not the favor. So come to find out the favor was for Heyman to be in his corner. So that's when Paul Heyman told Roman Reigns he couldn't turn Punk down and let Punk take Reigns out with the GTS to end the show. And the way that Roman sold it was hilarious. Like the way with the way that Roman landed, it looked like the meme of Yamcha. After he gets destroyed by those green Cybermen or whatever. Like I said, it looked like the Yamcha meme from Dragon Ball Z. You know what I mean? So I was like, all right, but of course, SmackDown was a strong episode, and so I would say the things that carry Friday's episode of SmackDown were this segment with with Roman, Punk, and Seth, as well as Jade and Naomi being officially confirmed. So I'll say that those were the two biggest highlights of SmackDown. But I also have to say that um, I feel as though, even though Roman doesn't have the belt anymore, um, I feel as though they could be doing a much better job with it. And it's just like, you know, it's not like him and Punk really have that much of a history to really be beefing like that. I mean, outside of, you know, the stuff that Punk said in that podcast, like way back in 2014, whatever. But ultimately, Punk's real beef is consistently with Seth Rollins. You know what I mean? So it's just like, this is more so um, for CM Punk to finally say that he's in a WrestleMania main event, because his window is definitely closing. So it's more so in terms of getting him, and not only in the main event of WrestleMania, but in the main event with the guy that holds the record for the most main events, Roman Reigns. This is CM Punk's first WrestleMania main event. This is Roman Reigns' 10th main event. You know, and so I guess that they want to make Punk look stronger at Roman's expense, even though Punk was the main one that was saying that Vince and the company wanted to make Roman look strong. So it's almost like like this retroactive backlash, for that. It's almost like it's like penalizing Roman for Vince's decisions. You know what I mean? And it's just like, and like I said, in the way that Roman got punked at the Royal Rumble, like so, like not only him, Seth and CM Punk getting eliminated, but for Roman to get hit with not only one but two uh, curb stomps. I was like, that ain't cool. And of course, bad enough that he didn't win the Rumble, especially after he had a reign that lasted for 4 years. 1,316 days, and this is what he's getting. You know, and it's not like he's elevating new talent. This is more so to more so as um, a prize for Punk to finally be in the main event. You know, so now if Roman and Seth run back for SummerSlam, let that happen. So I'm hoping, at least this is my pick. I really want to see Roman Reigns get the W. Um, and it would be great if he were to do like he did with Edge and Daniel Bryan and stack um, Punk and he was going to stack Punk and Seth on top of each other, so you can get a double pin. That's how that's why we did. But anyway, moving on to Monday Night Raw. And so this was the first Monday Night Raw, back from the European tour. So here we are, and of course, I certainly believe that viewership went down because they're competing with the NCAA finals. But yeah, anyway, here we are as Monday Night Raw took place in Minneapolis in the Target Center where the Timberwolves play. So it's headlined by Women's Intercontinental Championship match between Lyra Valkyria and Bayley, as well as appearances from Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins. And so we definitely want to see what the Wiseman and the Visionary had in store for the fans ahead of WrestleMania, the showcase of the Immortals. And so of course, we'll also see the tweet, saw the latest from Penta and the Judgment Day, plus the War Raiders defend the tag titles against the New Day. And so here we are when it comes to the match card: the Women's Intercontinental Championship, Bayley versus Lyra Valkyria, Penta versus Dominic Mysterio, World Tag Team title match, the War Raiders versus the New Day. We have El Grande Americano, actually, who I firmly believe is Chad Gable. And then, of course, we also, like I said, appearances from Heyman, Seth Rollins, Gunther, and Jey Uso, along with with the women's triple threat being officially confirmed. Now, Rhea Ripley has been inserted into, of course, the WrestleMania, the women's world title match between Bianca Belair and Io Sky. And I definitely have a few words to say about about that Minnesota crowd and just the way that Bianca, just lately has been treated as getting these unnecessary boos. Like, who boos Bianca? Like, come on now. But anyway, Raw kicks off with the aforementioned, segment, but between Io, Bianca, and now Rhea. And so, Raw General Manager Adam Pearce opened Monday's show by introducing Women's World Champion Io Sky, as well as her national challenger Bianca Belair, who won the Elimination Chamber. Have the match at WrestleMania. Rhea Ripley followed to the biggest ovation out of all three. Especially with the way that she cried and complained and kicked and screamed, to finally get into the main event. Which is like I wanted to see Rhea be a part of WrestleMania, but I just but of course the circumstances behind it have been very questionable. Anyway, but yeah, like I say, great elementary episode that I'm watching. Probably I'm not gonna spoil it. But of course, we see that Adam Pearce proceeded to officially announce a triple threat match, much to the chagrin of Bianca Belair, meaning she was not having it. Bianca was not, the EST was not having it as she signed the contract. Rhea as well, but for the disrespect directed towards Io Sky sitting out of the ring. And when I said that Bianca was not having it, she talked about how Rhea had complained to get into just complained and had a tantrum, was acting like a kid, just to get to this match. Meanwhile, Bianca earned it on her own merit, without having to crash out, without having to stiff arm her way into this match. Meanwhile, Rhea, just gets a tantrum and finally gets what she wants. And so, I don't know what it is, because I don't know. Pretty sure I know what it is with this Minnesota crowd, but it's very blatant. Bianca was getting boos. I don't know why. I mean, I think I do know why, for obvious reason. It was pathetic. For her to get booed like that. I know that there are people online saying that Bianca's character is stale, it's boring, and it's like making those excuses as to why she got booed, right? Saying that saying that, like I said, saying that she's boring, she's stale, she needs to have a character change. And I saw somebody in one of these Facebook groups, job rotation group, by the way, who made a comment and said that people were tired of seeing Bianca with that braid, spinning her braid around, stuff like that. But also, it's just like, it's funny how people have that criticism, that sentiment about her, but nobody said a word about Bayley when she was the hugger, dressed like a kid, for the kids, by the way, right? Nobody said anything about Alexa Bliss playing with toys. Nobody said anything, at least as far as I know, nobody said anything about Tiffany Stratton saying toodles, and acting like a middle schooler or something. Like Tiffany Stratton was pretty much, pretty much a character was a sheriff from Clueless. You know what I mean? So that so like as far as the whole Valley Girl thing, like nobody said a word about that. But when it comes to Bianca, now all of a sudden, you want like fans want to grow up or whatever, like that type of thing. But really, I would say a lot of that backlash towards Bianca, much of it I would certainly say has to do with racism, especially when it comes to the Minnesota crowd, as well as a European crowd, especially the ones out there in Glasgow, out in Scotland. I was like, good night. Like, really? Everything she did in Scotland got booed, um, and so it's just like people are just just showing their true colors, like just letting it be known. You know what I mean? So I would say that race is definitely one thing, but also this ridiculous narrative that being healed is the only way for someone, um, to really be over and really be special or whatever. But everybody doesn't always have to be healed in order to, connect with the fans and things like that. Like I think like so many of these people on the internet want these wrestlers to turn heel, because a lot of them are cynical themselves. That's really what it is, you know. And so for them, like I say, for them bullying Bianca because she's not a heel, I think it's absurd, you know. Um, and it's just and like I said, it's like the internet, like they could quickly get bored at the drop of a hat. You know what I mean? I think it's insane. You know what I mean? So like so for those that are calling for calling for Bianca to turn heel, absolutely not. Especially when she's justified in feeling the way that she feels. But I would like to say, I'm going to get off my soapbox, but it's just like that. That's you know, um, definitely have to definitely have to get my rain off, and definitely have to get my rain off, and go off a few rounds, if you will, because it's just like people just find anything to complain about, and they're quick to call something boring, all this type of stuff like that. Like, come on now. Like I said, those criticisms are just completely played out. You know what I mean? Like people have, like a lot of these fans have the attention span of a microwave. But anyway, of course, moving on, we have the Women's Intercontinental Championship match. Bayley versus Valkyria, the winner, and still Intercontinental Champion. Lyra by way of pinfall with the Nightwing, finisher. But anyway, like I said, as far as that, next we have the LWO versus American Mania, El Grande Americano, who I firmly believe is Chad Gable. And it was not very subtle, if you will. And of course, El Grande Americano, the Three Brothers, defeat the LWO. So it's just like, so next up we have Jey Uso confronting Gunther. And to see Jay get this serious, I mean, it's definitely a refresher, if you will. So there's no laughing, no eating, and no laughing, no eating, or no bright shirts and anything like that, and so on. So Jey Uso slowly made his way through the crowd to confront Gunther. Yeah, all right, then. But anyway, like I said, to confront Gunther, had the WrestleMania 41 match, and these fans have no shame at all. As Jay was walking down, there was a fan who held a sign right in his face, said mid-event Jey Uso. I was like, man, like I said, the IWC are some of the most cynical people ever. But thankfully, Jay ignored it. So we see that he's locked in, focused. He had all black, and he was just bent on getting revenge for his brother. After last week's assault by the ring general Gunther. And Gunther, the lady dressed as Mr. Bean. You know what I mean? So it's just like it's crazy how there's just a complete 180 from that bloodshed to dressing like a principal. You know what I mean? And so Jay was so of course talked about how he mentioned he talked to his mom in a minute. He was too afraid to protect his brother, and then Jay was like, "Not anymore." He said he's gonna get Gunther in Las Vegas. He's gonna take the championship, and it's a big line right here. Jay said that he was gonna ask the Lord to forgive him for what he was gonna do to Gunther. Like, yeah, this is Jay's locked in. No, see, much even no playing games, or whatever. And so the body language, from Gunther was outstanding. It was amazing. And so plus the way, see the way, uh, you just look at Jay's facial expressions, or Gunther's facial expressions, while absorbing Jay's words, and so the ring general realized that he had a colossal mistake. So, I'm gonna, give him a review of Evan. You see sometime later, after this episode's over. But I'm just gonna rewatch it afterwards. But anyway, that's another story. But anyway, like I said, it was definitely some pretty great business. And it's got me more invested into this match going into WrestleMania, because this is what they really needed to really turn the heat up, because so this program desperately, sorely needed. Next, we have the World Tag Team Championship match, the World Raiders versus the New Day. The winners of this match, by way of disqualification, the New Day.
Yeah, but see, I didn't get a second chance because I was actually good at it.
Anyway, so next up we have Penta versus Dominic Mysterio. Earlier in the night, Adam Pearce announced that Braun Breaker was going to defend his Intercontinental Championship against Penta, Dominic, and Finn Balor in the Fatal 4-Way at WrestleMania 41. So apparently WWE has a big thing for multi-man matches in this year's Mania in Vegas. And so in a preview, Penta battled Dominic in singles competition and got the win with a sacrifice, followed by the Penta driver for the pinfall victory, another perfectly acceptable matchup. So then Braun Breaker interrupted the post-match beatdown by Dominic and Carlito coming to the aid of Penta. So he tore through everybody. Then and I want to say that Braun Breaker, in my estimation, now he has the greatest spear of all time. I would say that he supplanted Goldberg and Roman when it comes to spears, because if you look at the hang time that he gets as he launches into the air for the spear, and I was like, it's just something special about a Braun Breaker spear. I mean, it's just like next level. And so he just speared Carlito in half. I was like, man. And so of course Finn Balor, eventually Finn Balor took down Braun Breaker, imposed with IC title, only to dodge one last spear by him, who eventually stood tall with the title to close out the segment. So of course Michael Cole suggested a 4-way match for the IC title, maybe a potential show stealer at WrestleMania. And he's right, and more than likely it might end up being on night 1, I believe. So even though it's not. Some of the matches aren't completely finalized for what night they're going to be on, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is night 1. Next up, we have Seth Rollins confronting Paul Heyman, and you want to talk about somebody that he just straight punked Paul Heyman. He was pimp slapping Paul Heyman, and so of course Seth himself was saying that they want to get a favor from Heyman, and he mentioned how. When CM Punk left, he didn't take Heyman. Pretty much didn't take Heyman with him. When Roman Reigns lost the title, he left Heyman high and dry, and so of course Paul Heyman was with that team bloodline led by Solo. He wasn't respected like that obviously to the point where he ended up going through a table and Roman wasn't there, and so Seth wanted Heyman wanted to question why Heyman was so loyal loyal to both of them, and how how his allegiance to Punk is tied with nostalgia, basically. And so so they got to a point, um, where like where Seth was about to curb stomp uh, Heyman, but of course, CM Punk made the save, in order to protect him. And so, and it's just like so of course, Seth Rollins is definitely becoming one of the most compelling talkers outside of Drew McIntyre, or even CM Punk himself. And so it's just like he's a heel who still gives cheer, but believe himself to be completely justified in his actions, and generally makes good points, almost like a parallel with Roman, pretty much. And so it's just like this obsession with the demise of Punk Punk and Reigns, that has really gotten to him. What I mean? It's just like of course, as far as that, suggests that he suggests that Heyman owes him a favor. It's gonna be interesting, to see how that takes place, and of course, going into WrestleMania, and so of course, Paul Heyman says, "I'll always be loyal to my tribal chief on the Reigns." He says, "I'll always be loyal to my best friend in the world, CM Punk," and of course, that's what Heyman said before adding that just because he is loyal to both sides does not mean he's going to be disloyal to either at WrestleMania. And of course, Seth Rollins is famous for the way that he stirs the pot. And it's just like I mean, if anything, you definitely tell that that Seth is definitely getting a kick out of this. Um, and this final stretch going to WrestleMania um, shows a greater sense of creative urgency. And so it's just like at this point, it's now or never, especially with Mania getting super duper close, close within our fingertips. And so this type of momentum that they absolutely need going forward. And last but not least, I'm going to talk about NXT. When I say that this was definitely quite the episode, um, it was headlined by Obafemi, Trick Williams, and Javon Evans teaming up against Dark State. And so, and of course, that Dark State is the team version of the Shield for NXT. And they've been running all over NXT since they arrived, and just attacking anybody in their sight. So we're starting off with Jordan Grace versus Jada Parker, and this, of course, this match ended in a no contest because Stephanie Bakir was at ringside. Um, you know, uh, Stephanie Bakir was at ringside, watching the match, and so of course we saw that neither Jordan nor Jada, could really get a clear advantage until Jordan Grace got the first 2 count of the match. And so, I mean, of course, even though she definitely has the experience and advantage, but her and Jada have found ways to develop great chemistry with each other to make it look like they're on the same level, if you will. But see, that's a testament to Jordan Grace's, ability, to bring the best out of somebody, and Jada Parker's definitely benefited from that. So it's definitely what matches in NXT need to look like. But anyways, like I said, of course, Stephanie Bakir was sitting at ringside, and so Jada Parker comes out and ends up slapping her, and so Stephanie accidentally hits Jordan in response, which caused a DQ, and so they both both tried to take Stephanie out until Julia came in and made the save, and so it looked as if Julia and Stephanie were united front. It looked like they were a united front. It looked like they would looked like they would be together, but only come to find out, Julia underestimated, who was by her side, because out of nowhere, Julia attacked Stephanie and took her out to end the segment, and so it looked like this is going to end up being a fatal 4-way. Looks like he's going to be a fatal forward going to NXT Stand 11. So as far as that, next up we have Fraxton versus Swipe Right. This is a great match, better than I expected. This was amazing, phenomenal chemistry in this match. And so I was like, man, you can definitely tell, especially when it comes to that unity, that chemistry. It just like how much synchronized movement, if you will, when it comes to Fraxi. And so, of course, the newcomers, Swipe Right, did definitely put on a great performance. But of course, in the end, the experience of Fraxi won out. And so, like I said, it's just amazing set of high flying moves. And so, the winners of this match are Fraxi. Next up, we have Jasmine Nix versus Sol Ruka. The winner of this match, Sol Ruka. And so now she's going to qualify for the women's ladder match going to Stand and Deliver. You have Hank and Tank versus Brooks Jensen and Nico Vance. The winners of this match, Nico Vance and Brooks Jensen. And we have Wesley versus Yoshiki Inamura. And so the winner of this match is Wesley. And and also mention, of course, I also want to mention the segment where Ricky Saints called out Ethan Page, talk about why he was attacked, but Lexis King showed up instead. And so it was Ricky Saints, Lexis King, and Wesley all out there. So Eddie Thorpe comes in and said that the North American title is his birthright, and this might, this definitely be off script. Oh, you know what? Another thing I got to bring up as well. As far as SmackDown, how can I forget? Especially when it came to that segment that that Tiffany and Charlotte had, which went completely off script. They were definitely going for low blows, and they certainly did. About how Tiffany brought up how Charlotte's 0-3 outside of wrestling when it comes to her marriages, and after the match's over, Charlotte's going to be alone, and Charlotte brought up Kaiser, was going to her DMs. Of course, Luka Kaiser vehemently denied it. And so clearly that wasn't, apparently that clearly was not even the case at all whatsoever. And like I said, just the way that they went off script, it's not really doing either one of them any favors. So of course that was another highlighted segment from SmackDown as well. But fast forward to NXT, I say that to say that apparently Eddie Thorpe, must have taken notes from that. I was like, you know what? Let me go off script myself. Let me go ahead and improvise myself. And so Eddie talked about how the North American Championship was his birthright, and he was tired of seeing, in his own words, greedy white men. He pointed to Lexis King, and he said he was tired of seeing greedy white men steal what was still was rightfully his. And the way Wesley looked, he was like his silence spoke volumes, and I thought like the way Eddie said it, I thought it was hilarious. I was like, man, wow, really? Wow, excuse me. It definitely got heated. So Wesley, also came out and said he wanted a title shot before Ethan Page showed up and dropped the Saints with the cutter. Of course, after the break, Wesley was still in the ring, and so to take on Inamara, and of course, like I said, like that segment is what opened the door for the match, and so the winner of that match was Wesley. Then we have Rest Sinclair versus Izzy Dane. And Izzy Dane ends up winning. Then we have Obafemi, Trick Williams, and Javon Evans. And I like how they all tried to one up each other when it came to the entrances. And so and of course Obafemi came out last. And it's funny how each of them, like how Javon and Trick's music was cut short. Only for Oba to have the last entrance and pretty much like the last word, if you will. And so, So of course, in the end, because of the dissension between Oba, Trick, and Javon, Dark State took advantage of that and ended up winning. Um, so of course, it's definitely another attempted retribution, which was a an attempt at the shield, right? So let me put it this way: the shield are like the Road Warriors, the original. The retribution was demolition, right? The copy. Then we have Dark State, who's a copy of a copy. And so it's just like, so as far as that, like I said, because of that, like I said, they definitely took advantage of that disunity. Um, and so obviously the triple threat match has been confirmed. The triple threat match has been confirmed between um, Oba, Trick, and Javon. And so let me see what the NXT Stand Deliver is looking like right now. Going to Las Vegas. So, it's definitely heating up. And so there's some other matches that were confirmed. And once it was, the Jada Parker, Jordan Grace, Julian Stephanie Bakir. So like I said, as far as that, the NXT Championship of Triple Threat, Oba Femi defending against Trick Williams and Javon Evans. And we had, when it comes to the NXT Women's Championship, we have Stephanie Bakir, La Primera, of course, defending the title against Jordan Grace, and Jada Parker. And so, so of course, when it comes to NXT, it's definitely been heating up. Like I said, business has picked up in more ways than one, and so I'm definitely excited for it. And so as far as that, in other news, like I said, of course, shout out to Booker T for constantly taking the high road, and just carrying himself, carrying himself in a more dignified manner. So of course, like a Team Booker T, shout out to him. So as far as that is when it comes to the weekend, when it comes to the week in comics and pop culture and wrestling and sports and itself in general. So now it's time to go into this week's birthdays. So as of today, happy 36th birthday to the EST of WWE, Bianca Belair. It was on April 10th. Paul Bearer would have turned 71. Q-Tip, Hall of Famer from Tribe Called Quest, turns 55. On April 11th, Harley Race would turn 82. On the same day, Dustin Rhodes, all formerly known as Goldust, brother Cody, son of Dusty, turns 57. On April 12th, L. Duncan from ESPN turns 42. On April 14th, Lita turns 50. So that's it for the birthdays. And before I go, I would like to give a word of wisdom, and it is, at the end of the day, status is great, fame, influence, impact, accomplishments, all those things are great. But at the end of the day, what you do for Christ will last. The decision that you make in terms of what you do in terms of what you do with Jesus, your choice in terms of accepting Jesus, Jesus. Like put it this way, your opinion about Jesus is what's going to matter the most. Status, fame, accomplishments, all that stuff are great. But ultimately, who you say he is what matters the most. So that is my word of wisdom. And always remember that you are victorious because greater is he that's in you than he that's in the world. When you put God in the first place, you don't have to worry about being in the last place. Please make sure to listen to this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or anywhere else that you download podcasts. And of course, I'm also on YouTube as well. So, of course, thank you very much for those that are listening, that are watching, and thank you for those that are listening as well. And like I rest of it. And may this day be the very best day of your life. Thank you very much. Have a great day.